Go. Meanwhile, to the NFL we go. Time for a game that we call, believe it or not, NFC East edition. Lewis, we start with you. If I say Jalen Hurts is the quarterback with the most approved this season, believe it or not?
Yes and no. I do believe it from a personal sense, not from a team accomplishment sense, because he's already won a Super Bowl and almost won another. But I think there's just been so much talk surrounding Jalen and his inability to maybe play the game at a high level when you're talking about specific aspects of quarterbacking, like throwing the football in the middle of the field, working under center, executing play action on a consistent basis. I think he wants to prove something, and I think he is going through this year.
Probably do it without A.J. Brown. We'll see if they do indeed trade him off the beginning of June. Bart, let me come to you. If I said the Cowboys defense is going to be so improved, they'll make it back to the NFC Championship game for the first time in forever. Believe it or not?
I know we say this every year, Greeny, but believe it. I believe it. I tell you, Christian Parker has a lot of things to work with that's good. You talk about replacing Parsons with Rashawn Gary. You talk about Downs, Overshaw coming back, Kenny Clark. You talk about Quentin Williams. Believe it, Greeny.
Yeah. Christian Parker, the new defensive coordinator there in Dallas. All they have to do is get decent with that offense, and they could be special. Finally, Mike T, staying in the division, believe it or not, Jaxson Dart and the Giants are going to go from worst to first in the division this year.
They will be improved, and I think John Harbaugh is a consequential acquisition by the New York Giants, but this is a team that only won 7 games over the last 2 years, and while Jaxson Dart has shown flashes of ability, Greedy, as Hembo reminded me, he was hit 148 times in 14 games, and that is simply not sustainable in this day and age.
Absolutely. And that's why I brought it up with Troy yesterday. So we had Troy Aikman here yesterday for a half hour. It was a terrific sit down, and I was really able to go in depth with him on some things. And we talked about Jaxson Dart and his style of play. Here's what Troy said.
We had that discussion about him protecting himself, and within the first 5 plays, he just got absolutely blown up on the sidelines. He didn't get out of bounds. You know, when you're young, when you get into the league, you do have this mindset, and that's, you know, like Jim McMahon, I think that's part of what makes him him. Some of that bravado and toughness is how a lot of these quarterbacks are wired and how they gain their edge.
So we got a fine line that we have to walk there, right? Because I am one of those who believes in the Giants. I know you talk about how few games they won the last 2 years. Last year in particular, they handed games away. Early in the season, they had the Denver game being the most obvious example, but there were so many games last year they not only could have won, but absolutely should have won. So you just flip a few of those on the margin, add some pieces, which they have, add an outstanding veteran coach, quarterback in his second year. Sounds a lot like New England from the year before. I'm not saying they're going to wind up in the Super Bowl, but I could see them taking a big jump. But This is the key, because Jaxson Dart is supposed to be representing Big Blue. He's got to stay out of the blue tent. How do you do that? Troy was just saying sometimes you can't really get it out of a guy.
Well, look, this is going to really be something that's really going to have to be driven from within Jaxson Dart and his ability to understand that, look, you have your own brand, you have your own style, and that has gotten you to this point. But look, there's a reason why we all love football. We love the team aspect of it. We love the camaraderie aspect of it. We love the fact that it is a dependent sport. Quarterback is a dependent position. His success is dependent upon him being on the field. He needs time on task, right?
Yeah.
He needs to develop a relationship now with another new offensive coordinator in Matt Nagy. If they want to accomplish all the big goals, which is winning the division, winning the conference, winning the Super Bowl, returning them to glory, he has to be on the field. So at some point, there is that fine line from saying, look, this is my own personal brand, but this is the brand the team needs me to really represent.
That's a great job by Hembo of illustrating the point I was making in my head with the exact numbers. They had 10-point leads in 5 different games they lost last year. You flip those around and everything looks vastly different. But let's talk about the young quarterback taking a beating.
And you talk about the Giants, they're swimming upstream, because you can argue that he's the newest quarterback, but you can also, if you're a ranking quarterback, you would say he was 4th. He's swimming upstream. In the division. So he has to understand how important and how vital he is. And I think the first thing that Harbaugh did to try and prove that to him was to go out and get Patrick Ricard, because he wants him to know that we're going to run the football. We're going to bring a tough brand of football. We're going to run the ball. That's why Greg Roman is there, to protect the young guy from himself. It's arrogance when you're that young, right? And you don't understand how important you are to the organization. He has to understand that, and Harbaugh is going to beat that message in his head. He had Lamar Jackson, and you saw Lamar start to look like he wants to slow down. You want to tell him, hey, man, it is a $500 million out here if you can play for 15 years. But you got to get there. And every young dude thinks that he's an alien and he's something that the league has never seen. Just ask Anthony Richardson. It's cost him his career and his opportunity to be a starter in this league, and it could happen to you if you miss too much time.
And Greeny, Bart will remember this, but when we had Mark Sanchez in his formative years, Rex Ryan actually brought in Joe Girardi, who at the time was the manager of the Yankees, to learn how to slide better. Like, to be able to protect yourself is part of playing the quarterback position. Know when to slide, know what to throw away. Remember, the second best thing that happens in a passing game is an incomplete pass. So Jaxson Dart has to take that step for the Giants to be able to compete meaningfully.
No question about it. I think he will. I'm a huge believer in his. If they get some of this stuff out of him, Bart looks a little skeptical.
Because he doubled down in some of his interviews. Sometimes you got to learn the hard way, Claude.
And hopefully he did. And hopefully Harbaugh is the right guy to turn it around. I think the Giants have a chance to be meaningfully improved. We'll do much more of this as we go. Golf, potentially absolute favorites. Let's look at some of the opening week matchups that we already know, highlighted by some division rivalries. Thursday night opening week, NFC West rivals are going way west or east. I'm not sure exactly how you describe Australia, but it'll be the Rams and the 49ers in the land down under on September 10th. Sunday night primetime, we know we'll have the NFC East rivals, Cowboys and Giants. That's an annual affair. And then we told you yesterday, week one will conclude with the Chiefs hosting the Broncos on the first Monday night football. So let's do a little matchup madness. Bart, what matchup are you most looking forward to watching as the season gets going?
I mean, let's start right with the opener. You talk about the Broncos and the Kansas City Chiefs, a divisional matchup. You talk about the tale of two quarterbacks both coming back from injury. Who's going to adjust better for that? I can't wait to see that with Greeny. It's going to have major implications for the playoffs later in the season.
We'll talk about why the scheduling of this game is so critical. By the way, there's already a line on the game. Chiefs open as a 2.5-point favorite. Lewis, give us a game that we're waiting to see when it will be played.
Bengals at Commanders. Look, hopefully this is mid to later in the season, which gives Jaden Daniels in particular some time to come back from only playing 7 games a year ago. Last played early in December. Give him some time to really kind of get acclimated to a new offensive coordinator in David Blau, a new wide receiver in Antonio Williams, who's a third rounder who's going to be electric for this football team, and obviously Joe Burrow is Joe Burrow. So this could be one of the most high-scoring games of the season with two of the most electric quarterbacks in the entire league.
And then Mike T, give me a game you're waiting to see.
Greeny, Rams, Seahawks. Let's not overthink it. Arguably the two best teams in the league, and as Hembo reminded me, last year they played 3 times, and the point margin was 7 points total for those 3 games. Rams rebuilt that secondary. Let's see if that's going to be enough. Trent McDuffie, Jalen Watson coming over. Should be a great game.
See if Seahawks can defend their championship or if Matthew Stafford and company have it for them. We got a lot of football coming your way today. Coming up, Caleb and the Bears. Did they go from first place to out of the playoffs? We'll tell you what their biggest obstacle is and why there's actually nothing they can do about it. Plus, could Jaxson Dart's superpower be the one thing that stops the Giants from taking a huge leap forward? Troy Aikman has a lot to say about the young quarterback, and